Good evening. Today is Monday, October 16th, 2017. This is the Selectmen meeting for the town of Pepperell. We are live and being recorded for rebroadcast. If everyone could stand for the pledge, that would be great. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so the first thing on our agenda is acceptance of the minutes, and it looks like we have minutes for September 11th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes of September 11th.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. Warrants and purchase orders, are we all set, Peggy?
Yeah.
We have some good. Before we jump off of warrants,
That's just minutes.
last week we ran into a situation where the warrants were slow in getting signed, and that had a negative impact on veterans who were waiting to receive their checks. So I don't know what we need to do as a board, but we definitely need to make sure that we try to take action a little sooner on that, because it has an impact on people's lives. And you know, you were out of town. I was able to sign them. Lisa didn't sign them. So what do we need to do, Lisa? What do we need to do to get you to sign the warrants?
I usually come in on Monday and Tuesday and sign the warrants after work.
Okay. But last week, that didn't happen.
Okay. Well, then I probably looked at it and didn't agree with some expenditure, so I didn't sign it.
Didn't you? Okay.
What we should probably do is put on our agenda to develop a policy and procedure relative to the timing and submittal of warrants, payroll, whatever needs to be done. Obviously, the warrants and the payroll are in accordance with the budget, and the budget's already been adopted by the town.
Right.
And so long as the expenditures are not a transfer, which is different than the warrants and payroll, and those are different forms, then they should be signed as a matter of course. We can build into the policies and procedures, thank you, a day by which they have to be ready, and if they're not ready, then we'll get notice that they're not ready.
They were ready Tuesday. I signed them Tuesday.
No, understood. In terms of just having a policy for us, and if there is some kind of an objection to a particular item that is deemed to be a deviation from the approved town budget, if that were an issue, then we can put something together. But generally, the warrants and payroll are not deviations. They are within the approved budget that's already been approved at town meeting. So there shouldn't be any objections to them. It should just be signed as a matter of course.
Right. I mean, it's our role and responsibility as a select person to make sure that we just execute those warrants, because there are people who are waiting for these payments. If it's a vendor, or in this case, veterans who their life depends on these payments, and just to arbitrarily not sign them because you object to something that's in there, it doesn't seem, without even telling anybody what that objection is, doesn't seem like a logical course of action.
I don't think anything like this has come up in the past. I think that's one of the reasons there isn't a policy and procedure, but if we put it in place, then there shouldn't be any question about what happens when.
Well, so I just want to state for the record, we have one of the finest town accountants that I've
Lori's great.
been associated with in 3 decades of public service. So if there is an issue, I think whoever has that issue should bring it to her attention.
If we put together a policy and procedure, that should just be built into it, how that takes place.
Sure.
I know that generally speaking, when there is a request for a transfer, because something is off budget, it's a separate document, it's not part of the warrant and
That's correct,
payroll. Anything
correct.
that's in the warrant and payroll should be part of either items that are approved in the town budget in terms of payroll for employees or vendor expenses, including the veterans' benefits, that are, again, also part of the budget that was approved at town meeting in May. So Maybe there's just some confusion in general about what is part of those, but again, if we put on our agenda, either for the next meeting or the week after, I think the next meeting's getting a little tight, so maybe the week after, but we can start to put together some kind of a policy and procedure so that we have it in place, and then there's just no question. Outside of that, is there anything that wasn't signed tonight? I noticed there were 2 signatures. Do we need a third? Or are we all
I haven't
set?
signed them yet, so
Oh, Roland hasn't
I'll
signed
sign
Okay.
them before I
Yeah.
leave.
Okay.
But we do have 2 signatures.
Okay.
Is there anything else on
And the
warrants?
payroll wasn't done tonight, so
Tomorrow.
we'll need to
That'll
come
be
back
coming
to
back
do the payroll. Okay. All right.
All
Is
right.
that tomorrow?
Yeah.
Should be
Yes.
done tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, so that is warrants and purchase orders. Public communications, we have 2. Lisa, can you read the walk and wag?
Okay.
Yes, yours is 1, yes.
Break it into 2.
Yes.
Hold on.
No, take your time, I know it's kind of long, but you don't have to read it all, just the
On
first
Veterans
part.
Day, Saturday, November 11th, 2017, from 10 o'clock a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m., please join us for the 5th annual Walk and Wag for Veterans. Where else can you have a great time while also making a real difference in the lives of local disabled veterans? This year, we will bring back some of our favorite parts of past Walk and Wags, such as Carlson and McKenzie from 100.7 WZLX, the silent auction, and the 50/50 raffle, balloon animals by Jonas Kane, the Yappy Hour Doggy Bar, plus the food, music, and scenic walk that everyone enjoys. In addition, my screen's jumping
And
around.
it's teeny font,
Sorry?
and it's very small font.
It is.
Sorry.
Make it
That's all
bigger.
right.
What did you say?
You can make it bigger.
Oh,
Sorry.
We don't want any technical difficulties.
No.
burger,
She's already
burgers,
having
food
technical.
truck, don't miss it.
And then Roland has a second part to
It's
it.
going to be at the Great, you have to kind of dig through it to find out where it's going to be, because the first page doesn't tell you where to go. The Great Brook Farm State Park, 984 Lowell Street in Carlisle. And we actually have a team from Pepperell who is assembling. So Team Pepperell has been formed to represent our great town in an effort to raise awareness and fundraising for Operation Delta Dog Walk, the WAG for Veterans, which takes place on November 11th. Let me see. But it doesn't say how, if you want to join that team, who you should actually contact. I'm
Crystal
assuming
Jeffries?
Crystal Jeffries, because she's the one that sent it to us. She can be contacted by, I'll give you her email, I guess. cjeffries.mmds@gmail.com.
Or actually, on the left-hand side, it shows register to walk, so you could probably, go to the website and click on that.
Peggy, is that on our website?
I'd have to check.
If it's not, can you stick it up there? Although if, this is just a PDF, so I'm looking, it's the
I'll have to
website.
email someone to know.
That's fine, I was gonna say, and the website for the actual
Walk and
information
wag.
itself is http:// walkandwagforveterans.com, all together, walkandwagforveterans.com. If you go to that website, I expect you'll be able to see the registration form and all of the information as well. If it's on our website, it may or may not have a link, but we'll work to get that.
As well as to make a donation if you'd like to.
There you go. All right, do we have any other public communications from our group up here?
Okay.
Any from the public in terms of public communications, anything anyone's got to add?
I'll wait till there, because mine's not more of a publication, it's just more of a
Does anyone have anything?
procedural thing for us.
No, okay, go ahead.
Well, I think over the last 2 weeks, we received some emails that are sent to the Board of Selectmen as a group, but there's nobody who's really been taking responsibility for those. Doesn't look like Mark has been on those communications. The most recent one was relative to the gentleman who was complaining about the airport. So we should, develop a policy that says, okay, if we get these, for lack of a better term, a generic email, who's responsible to respond to it? Because I'm one of these guys, if it's not directed directly at me.
Yep.
then I ignore it because it's not calling out my action. And that's probably not a good thing, because if all three of us ignore it, then the person's gonna keep sending emails till somebody does reply. So we should develop a policy that says, okay, when these come in, who sees them, Peggy? The ones that just say Board of
It's
Selectmen?
supposed to go to all of us, but I don't know if they,
See, I'm not sure with the one, if somebody sends an email to Selectmen @ I'm not sure if it goes to all three of you or if
I
it
think
just
it goes to all
me.
of us.
It goes to
No, I
all of
think
us,
it don't.
including you.
Really?
Yes, and I remember when
Some
I
do,
first got
some
elected,
don't.
I asked you this question, and you said
Yep.
that you took care of answering the emails that were directed to the selectmen.
Right, or if I didn't have an answer, I would give it to Mark or,
I think it depends on where it originates, so I think if people click the website, it might.
then it just comes to me, I think.
Yeah, but it's,
doesn't-
but it's hard to know, and so I know there've been
Comes to you
some,
and the three of
You and
us.
you, and, oh, okay.
yeah, and I've gotten some, and I forwarded it to Mark that have been, and he's already gotten it.
Yeah.
Maybe I
And
can
then
go back
others
and
he
change
hasn't,
that so they go to
so
Mark
it
too.
it might be helpful if we
Yeah.
all get it.
I
in
think
general.
so, if I could, because
Yep.
you're very good at making sure that it gets back to that full circle of five of
Yep.
us. And I'll just use the question relative to the airport. Not only did we address it directly,
I answered him.
Peggy answered
I
it.
talked to him on the phone.
I sent the building inspector out to check it out as well. And so I think it's just corralling all the information, whoever can best get it. We're the
Yep.
paid professionals in the office, I have no problem. Whatever lead you give us, we'll follow it to a T. But I think the important part is that we did get back to that individual very promptly, and I would like to compliment Melissa for also chiming in, directly. And the person wasn't even a resident of Pepperell, was a resident of Groton.
There were actually two of them.
Are there two?
There were two. They came in around the same time. One was the gentleman who was not a resident, but one was a resident.
Okay.
And I think you weren't on that second one.
think I was.
That was the guy you
Did they
talked
have
to
the
on the
same
phone.
name?
They had very similar names.
Maybe that's why I thought it was all the same
And it was
person.
very
Okay.
confusing, yes, and they came in about the same time, but Roland's right. We probably should, when we have that conversation about the warrant, we should probably add that into the mix about who's gonna be the first,
Sure.
at least acknowledger of it, and then figure out where it goes from there.
Yeah,
Just
if-
so we don't have somebody
So it
think.
doesn't appear
ignored
like it
and-
just
yeah.
dumped in
Yeah,
here
yeah.
and nobody
No.
responds, just left it.
But he did thank us all for getting back.
They
to the
both
front.
did, yeah, ironically enough, they both did, but it was very confusing, because their names were very similar.
Sure.
And I think even their
I had no
email
idea it was
addresses
two
were a little bit,
people,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but there were two. All right. So Mark, that moves us on to your report.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. I'm happy to report to the board and the audience tonight that Pepperell had won a $3,220 grant for a new utility trailer for emergency management responses. We have a utility trailer that we use with DPW. This would be similar to that, and it's a great grant. Dave Kurzay, our emergency management director, who's recently retired, has some extra time on his hands, I take it, and has found a number of ways to get us better positioned, and I want to thank Lisa for, she serves on a committee with the chiefs, myself, and a number of other individuals that work very closely to really put us in the best position if there is some form of disaster, whether it be natural or otherwise. The main goal of this grant is to purchase a trailer, utility trailer to store equipment used for responding to emergency and disaster situations. This includes for field work with regard to emergency operations centers, scene security, road closures, emergency power issues, flooding, temporary shelters, and other types of activities. It's approximately 6 by 10 enclosed trailer, and it will be, it's on a cash basis, so we pay for it. We actually matched the grant itself with existing funds in the fiscal 2018 budget, which is associated with our Code Red service. So we didn't spend a dime. We got a new trailer, and we use, once again, the processes that Dave outlined, working with MEMA. It's a win-win, and it's a good piece of equipment to have, given what's happening throughout the United States. And once again, I want to thank Dave for his hard work on it.
Thanks, Dave.
Good
I
job,
picked it
Dave.
up today, so.
Nice.
Oh, good.
It's being lettered now.
It'll be sent Wednesday to be
Wrapped?
delivered and everything
Yeah.
else. And I'm having the old trailer lettered as well.
Two of them? Okay.
One's for the shelter and one's for emergency.
That's great.
Second item, I wanted to update the board some time ago, and I know Phil Durno worked on this very hard with the members of the Board of Health. I attended an oversight committee meeting at Devon's relative to our regional household hazardous waste collection. Just wanted to understand better how it was working. Last year, 73 Pepperell residents worked within the center, participated in the household hazardous products program, and that's approximately 6,176 pounds of toxic waste that is out of the waste stream, and very helpful. As of the first quarter, we've already eclipsed over 728 attendees, so it's roughly running at about over 30% usage. And I know that the board worked very hard, particularly Roland, with regards to the household hazardous waste program. It's a great facility. It's down in Devon's, and this month, each of the member towns participate in greeting the public. And on Saturday, November 4th, Margie LaFleur, the chair of the Board of Health, will be coordinating that effort and greeting visitors from all over the region.
Before you jump on, Phil, do you remember, or did you guys ever track about how many either cars or household residents came when you had the hazardous waste day, when it was here?
Repeat that?
When you had the hazardous waste day here, did anyone ever keep track of how many cars came
Oh,
before the
yes, our
capacity?
secretary did.
Do you know offhand about how many we would get on average?
How many
Ish?
cars?
Yeah. Because you figure one car per household roughly.
There was over 100.
Okay, so we're not too far off then from.
Yeah.
You figure if once a year we got
Once a
a
year,
little over 100,
Yeah.
if we're getting for our first 2017 was our first full year, right?
Oh, yeah, 26 visits.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's,
not bad.
it speaks volumes. And we can continue to match those up, and I've been working with Sandra to look at that. We'll see how the second quarter goes, and I'll
Great.
keep the board posted. Number three, I want to let the board know we had a very good day last Wednesday, October 11th. I was proud to participate in a ribbon cutting and reopening of the Neshoba Valley Tech High School Engineering Academy. Let me go back a second. A year before that, the Tech won a grant for $500,000 through the state's Governor Charlie Baker's program for workforce and equipment development and technology. And so with that grant, the leadership, Denise Pigeon, the superintendent and her staff worked to get the advanced manufacturing side of the equation up. Now, this new reopening of the Engineering Academy program will link up, I might say, very nicely with work relative to engineering. And Governor Baker announced that it is very, very unusual to have two grants in a row, and particularly in the vicinity of $500,000. So it's over $1 million that the Neshoba Valley Tech accessed over the last 2 years. I'd like to think that helps us with not only getting good quality education at the Tech, but also working very closely on new programs the state's pushing with regards to advanced technologies. And once again, I was very proud to attend that session. I want to also thank Chairman Al Buckley, who's chair of the school board, Sandra Proctor, and Michael Morgan, who were there as well. The fourth item, I'd like to say that I participated in an event at the Greater Lowell Community Foundation. They in the past have funded grants in town relative to NM Cares, and we're putting a grant proposal together with regards to the senior center very shortly. They celebrated 20 years of giving in community, and Mr. Jim Peisner, who was the Secretary of Education, was the keynote speaker, and that happened on October 11th. The last item I'm very excited about, we are working very closely, and last week I attended a meeting of mass development and at Devon's and at the request of Thatcher Keyser. And the Neshoba Valley Town Administrators Collaborative continued to participate. This is made up of 16 towns, including Aya, Bolton, Clinton, Devens, Groton, Harvard, Lancaster, Littleton, Lunenburg, Pepperell, Shirley, Sterling, Townsend, West Boylston, and Westford. And this is the annual meeting of the Mass Development Group. They came out, the new director is Lauren Liss. The board had congratulated her on her new, on her advancement to become the director. And I'm also happy to say that one of the first actions that the Neshoba Valley Town Administrators Collaborative will take is working to petition, we did petition the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, which is going to be very important to revenue streams. We were one of 15 organizations to ask for consideration in next year's budget, the state budget, fiscal 2019, for access to the Gaming Economic Development Fund. Little-known codicil and a piece of legislation that happened to create the Plainville gaming facility. MGM Springfield will be coming up online next year. Wind Harbor, Boston, Harbor, and Everett will be coming online. And once again, it's one avenue that we're trying to pursue relative to gaining access to potentially additional grant funding for water and sewer lines or infrastructure in cities and towns. And you don't have to be directly associated with the facility because the legislation said that it could come in various forms to different parts of the state.
Great.
So I just wanted to make that announcement to the board.
All right, all very good. All right, so we have a couple of hearings. Do we want to do the appointments first before we move on? All right, so the first thing we have is the Housing Authority appointment. Yep, I'm trying to get my thing here. So we have a letter from Marilyn Tremblay, who is the executive director, and she's been without an appointed member for 6 years. The statutes for filling the vacancy have changed, and the Board of Selectmen may appoint someone to fill the seat. And she has asked that we consider appointing Bruce Haskins into this particular position. And it's a 4-year term, appointment under Chapter 121B, Section 5 of Mass General Law, with a majority vote of the Board of Selectmen. So is Bruce here?
It's right here.
Excellent. I thought so, but I never looked to assume.
Housing authorities.
It's all good. So I'm going to have you introduce yourself. I'm assuming that you are Marilyn, but introduce yourself. We haven't met.
I'm Marilyn Tremblay. Yes.
Pleasure.
He's already on my board.
Right.
His position was supposed to be a town elected position that was supposed to be put on the,
We're supposed to be April of 2017.
right,
Yep.
and DHCD, my governing body, Department of Housing and Community Development, decided that they want a tenant on that. They want to put a tenant position on the Board of Commissioners. So what they told us to do was whoever was up for election had to be called a holdover. So I'm going to lose him as soon as they promulgate the rules and regulations for a tenant selection. So once I saw this, Chapter 121B had changed, I said, okay, well, let's put Bruce in that position so I can keep him. Because I don't know when they're going to come up with the tenant
Right.
rules and regulations. They're kind of having some issues. And so I'm just going to leave that seat open for them, for that tenant.
Okay.
So
They've been talking about that for some time now, haven't they, Marilyn?
I think it's been about a year and a half. Yeah, it's been about a year and a half. They were going back and forth with it. And unfortunately, if I had gotten the information, I think within a few days later, he would have gotten on the ballot. But didn't happen.
That's all right. It all worked out. Is
It
there
all
anything
worked
that
out.
you want to add?
No, I've been on the board for a year and a half now, and like the relationship I have with Marilyn and the other board members, and I just want to have kind of a more permanent seat there. It's not up in the air right now.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable that it's up in the air, because I just don't know when that regulation's going to change, and I'm going to lose him.
Is there any questions that the board has? Any comments? All right, do I have a motion?
I move we appoint Bruce Haskins to fill the spot as the state, is that the state appointee?
State appointee seat, yes.
Appointee seat on the Pepperell Housing Authority Board of Commissioners.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's unanimous.
Thank you
You're
very
official
much. Gracias, Sheshe, I know both languages. Appreciate it. You can go, right?
Yes, not at this time, so you're good.
Unless you want us to.
Who's that?
Nice cold if you get outside.
She'll remember when she opens up that door.
That's right. All right, so the second and last appointment on our agenda is for the Master Plan Committee. What are we doing with
Melissa,
that?
I recommend we hold this till the next meeting.
Consider it held. All right, then that brings us to our 7:15 public hearing for the classification of the taxable real property. All right, Ed, we're going to turn the lights off.
This is a public.
Did it update?
Gotta make sure that works.
Did it
Oh,
update?
yes, hang on, hold that, lights
No,
off.
it's a public hearing.
We're gonna,
Yeah,
I will,
yeah.
I want to make sure she gets this all set. All right, so, Roland, do you want to read it in while
I gotta find
she's
it
getting it
first.
set up?
Actually, here we go, right here. Okay. The Pepperell Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on the classification of taxable real property
Good job.
in the percentage of the local property tax levy to be borne by, come on.
See, you enlarged it too
Yeah,
large.
too much. To be borne by each such class during the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018, on Monday, October 16th, 2017, at 7:15 p.m. at the Pepperell Town Hall, Conference Room A, 1 Main Street, Pepperell, Mass. 01463. A comprehensive informal package regarding the classification of taxable real property is available upon request at the Selectman's office.
Hold that down.
You can keep reading.
At the town hall during normal business hours. Written and oral comments on this matter are welcome and may be submitted or made either prior to or at the public hearing.
All right, so the public hearing is open, the notice is read. You're working? All right, so we are going to move ourselves around a little bit, so bear with us for a second. All right, I'm going to come this way, only because it's a shorter ride. Otherwise, I got to move these out of the
Want to
way.
leave the back ones on?
Yeah, you can leave the back ones on.
Yep. Beautiful.
Right, I don't have a clicker, so I'm going to have to stay over here.
Ed, if Maureen stays off to the side, can you see her? Okay.
He's just gonna put the,
He is, but he may focus on her too. I just want to make sure you can see over there.
Bless you.
God bless.
Okay, this is the 2018 tax classification hearing. And I usually go through some facts about what's gone on in the tax rate and the sales in town. So our total values this year, once again, residential properties are our highest values. And commercial, industrial, and personal property make up a small amount of our total value in town. The slide breaks down all the different property types. We have 3,138 single-family homes in town. That's the greatest amount of property types, for a total of 4,653 properties in town. As you can see, you'll see in the later slides why that is an important thing for the classification hearing. This slide compares our town with other towns in the area, and each pylon represents a section of residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property. And you can see that we're mostly residential, like the other slide showed. We have a small amount of commercial, residential, and personal, compared to some other towns like Air, which, they have a lot of commercial and industrial and personal property to go along with. We're more in line with Shirley and Townsend in that area. Areas like Tingsboro, Littleton, they've got a lot more commercial property and industrial property.
Maureen, the numbers that you pulled for these from the other towns, are they current 2017, or are they, what time period are they from?
They were from 2017, fiscal 2017.
Okay.
And they were all came from the data bank.
Okay.
And this is the number of single-family homes that we are comparing to the same towns around the area. And we've grown about 0.88% over the last 5 years, as opposed to some of the other towns which have grown a lot more quickly. This year, we're up to 3138 single-family homes. Last year, it was 3105. So with Crawford coming online and some of the other open lots in town, we had a good amount of growth this year. And we're pretty much, if you look at the stacks in each of the towns, they're fairly consistent. And, you can see that maybe Groton had a little more growth and Tingsboro did as well. But you can see the gradual upward climb for the last 5 years. And this is how the values compared to the numbers. You can see that we had a 6.41% change over the last 5 years with a 7.53% change just in 1 year. Sales in town have been doing well, so values have been going up. And we're right in there with a lot of the other surrounding towns. Looks like fiscal 17 was a good year for pretty much everybody. Everybody's way above in 17 compared to the other years.
The market went up.
Yep.
Sales have been up everywhere.
And this is how we got to the tax rate this year. Right now I have it estimated at $16.39 with $5,623.67 excess capacity that I couldn't levy because it would go over, it would bounce up the tax rate to $16.40 and it didn't match our receipt, so that has to stay on the table. Our levy, 2.5% levy growth was 456,000. 410. New growth was 350, 107, which was greatly above what was estimated. All those new houses coming online, all the work that's been done for additions and decks and all the other things in town really helped a lot. One thing that's important to note is that top line where it says minus 1.292 in values. What that is because of the increase in the values in town, it actually brought the tax rate from $15.89. It brought it down $1.29, and then we build it back up. That's an important thing to note for this because this year we have a decent increase in the amount of debt that we have.
Right.
So it helped to keep the tax rate down.
Maureen, can you stop there for just for a minute, Melissa, through you? So when I first, just to put that into perspective, particularly the new growth, when I first came in the fall of 2014, we were building a budget that had new growth estimated at $70,000. So they have new growth at $350,000. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's also permitting and commercial structures, industrial, anything that's happening. It's everything. It's a significant shift. With respect to, it's one of the best economic indicators you look at when you look at the overall growth of the town and how we're proceeding. Thank you.
Is that due to all of the inspections you've been doing?
It's due to the inspections, it's due to the number of additions people have been doing, decks that people are doing, new houses.
There's quite a few
It's
new
not
new
increase
houses
in
going
value.
up.
It's new things that are coming in. Crawford Way was pretty much done in 1 year. I think pretty much all of Crawford Way is on this year.
That's great. Yeah, there's quite a few, for Pepperell size, larger groups of homes that are going on, and there'll be some more that'll be coming on the end of this calendar year,
Right.
kicked into the early part of the January-ish 18 timeframe, so,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, I expect new growth will be good next year as well. I don't think it's going to be as high. We had a big amount of growth because of some ruling that the state made about the solar panels that are in the solar farm. So that was, I think it was $900,000 in value, so that really helped boost up that number a few more $1,000s. I think we're double what we were last year, if not a little bit more than that. But I know that the state, there was a flag that said that new growth was more than 5% or 10% higher than last year. And when I talked to the state about that, they weren't concerned because it's happening to most of the towns around. So it was just a warning message. And then we have to add in the debt for the Nissitissit School, the new high school, Neshoba Valley Tech, and the fire truck. So that added $1.51 to the $1.15 to the tax rate. So with those things, it came out to $16.39. So that will be our tax rate for fiscal 18. And this just shows the tax rate history over the last several years. We're actually still below fiscal 16's tax rate. We had dropped last year and this year, even with the added debt, but because of the great increase in values, we're still below that amount.
No, with the exception of 13 and earlier, we've been pretty consistent within a short window between fiscal 14 up, which is nice. We're staying within a window.
Yeah, and I think the next slide compares us to other towns.
Still low.
And we have a very good tax rate compared to the other
We
towns.
do.
Air is a split tax rate, so that residential, that's the residential rate right there, that's reduced because of the split.
Well, I mean, explain that, because tax classification, you could probably spend the entire night on tax classification, right? Just a little blurb about what that means.
Well, what you can do is if you have a decent amount of personal property, commercial property, industrial property, you can put the tax burden on those properties and get a reduction in the rate for the residential properties. You'll see later on that it doesn't really work with our town as much, but someplace like Air, who has a lot of commercial, Littleton, Littleton's commercial property is increasing unbelievably because of all the development going on in there. They've both done that. So they've been able to lower their residential rate and push it off to the commercial properties and industrial properties. But even, Littleton's rate's still pretty high.
Compared to us, yeah.
Yeah. The closest one to us is Shirley, and I suspect that, and they're almost a point higher, and I would imagine their rate's probably going to go up this year as well, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and Townsend, who, we share the district with, they're significantly higher. I didn't go to Ashby because that was
It's too far away.
too far away. All right, this is our tax rate breakdown. So our tax rate is $16.39, and this is how it breaks down, how many dollars of that $16.39 go to each one of these categories. And these categories are part of the general budget. So North Middlesex Regional is $9.56. Employee benefits is $1.36. And the whole thing adds up to $16.39. Amazing. So it's just kind of a graphical view of where your money goes to. Now, the next slide, we're not going to use because I have a surprise for Mark.
Oh, good. Is it green?
It is green. How did you know?
I took a guess.
A while ago, Mark had told me about this great slide. He doesn't like these pie charts. He had told me about this great slide that he had when he was working in Wareham, and he wanted to use it, and we couldn't do it. So we were able to do it with a little help from the IT manager in Wareham
Average tech.
and Martin.
Is that?
Here's the dollar bill. So this is going to be the tax bill breakdown. So our average
Okay.
tax bill was $5,110. It was on one of the slides.
It's cute.
Killing it here. That's
Look at that,
exactly-
Mark.
That's unbelievable. You made my night.
So public safety, out of that $5,110, public safety gets $589.69. Capital outlays, $48.03. North Middlesex Regional, $29.80. Neshoba Valley Tech, $355.15. Human Services, $88.40. Employee benefits, $422.60. Public Works, $250.39. General government, it's got that little sliver, $237.10. Debt service, even smaller, $32.19. And the last bar, culture and recreation, $106.80. So all that adds up to the $5,110.
Very nice.
You like that? Is that a good surprise?
That's really
Very
cool.
nice. That is neat.
Looks like Sir William might need a shave, but that's all right.
Yeah.
It's a little dark under the chin.
It's a shade,
Okay.
just a shadow.
As opposed to this.
Thank you.
Yeah, right?
You made my
Yeah,
night.
yours looked much, that was much
Yeah.
more fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rapid speed.
I actually used that when I say it.
Great.
Well, I saw a little sliver on each end.
Yeah.
Teeny, teeny, that's right. Real,
tiny.
real
You know what it's
tiny.
like trying to make those? Okay, this number's bigger than this number, so this bar is
Bid on that,
this
yeah.
bar.
Oh my gosh.
Practically?
All right, so this is the, I guess, the real hearing part of the presentation. So the selectmen have to vote on offering an open space discount, a residential exemption, small commercial exemption, and whether or not we should split the tax rate. Open space discount, that's land that has to be classified by the Board of Assessors as being open space. It is not Chapter 61, 61A, 61B, and it's also not land owned by conservation or any other conservation trust. The Board of Assessors has no properties classified as open space, and a vote of no is recommended. Most people have their properties in 61, 61A, and 61B, which wouldn't count for the open space. Residential discount. This is a discount that's based on owners that actually live in town and ones that do not. And what it will do, it'll shift the burden within the residential rate from the people who live here to a higher percentage for the people who don't. This isn't really, it's not used in very many towns, but the towns that it is used in are usually those that have a lot of rental properties, they have a lot of vacation properties. A lot of the people don't live in that town. So the board recommends a no vote for this because it really doesn't apply.
So if we were in Salisbury, this might apply. 'cause
Yeah,
you'd have all the-
Nantucket,
Yeah, we're-
yeah.
all these people are only there for
Yeah.
the summer.
Yeah, wait.
And I guess some towns like Somerville, Boston,
Because of all the
because there's a lot of
student-
people that live out of town but still own property in town. The small commercial discount switches moves the tax burden from within the commercial, industrial, and personal property. And to meet the qualifications, you have to have a value of less than $1 million and be certified by the DET as having no more than an average of 10 employees in the previous year. So those that would get a discount, the rest, the reduced amount of value would be put on the remaining properties, and they would have to pay an additional amount. There are 167 businesses in town that would qualify. Most of those 167 businesses are in-home businesses, though. The board recommends a no vote for it because we don't have a lot of commercial properties in town, and shifting it doesn't seem the appropriate thing to do because we want to keep our middle to large companies in town. This is the split tax rate, where, as I said before, It shifts the burden of the taxes to commercial, industrial, mixed-use properties. And because we're made up of 96% residential properties, we could have a tax rate shift of up to 1.5. The board feels that we should keep it at a 1, which gives the tax rate, keeps the tax rate the same for everybody. And the next slide shows how it would break down if we did shift it. So, the one at the top with the 1 is the same tax rate for everybody. If you go up 10% and shift it, you can see that the tax rate for the commercial properties goes up to 1803. And the residential properties right next to it only go down 11 cents. So I think it was like $2.40 or something. For every $2.40, the residential rate goes down 11 cents. So by the time you get to the maximum shift, the tax rate for commercial, industrial, personal property would be $24.59. And it would be $15.84 for the residential. So for an $8.20 increase, the residential rate would only go down 55 cents. So that's why the board is recommending to leave it as a 1. Okay, so you need to vote on these things. And
This is your last slide?
this is the last slide.
So what we'll do is we'll reconfigure back to our normal seats.
Yes,
We'll turn the
I'll
lights
shut
back
this off,
on,
yes.
and then we'll have discussion and such, and then go from there. All right, Ed, we're going to reconfigure back. Maybe. Do it without breaking anything. And Wayne, if you could turn the light back on, that would be great. Thank you.
That's your,
It doesn't seem as bright as it did before the lights went off.
Something's up.
Maybe it's just me. I'll wait till she's done and then we'll. All right. So my personal opinion, I don't disagree with the recommended items from the board. We don't have a lot of open space, residential exemption, and the small commercial exemption. So we wouldn't really get much benefit, but we're still trying to attract businesses to town, and if we were to do a split tax rate now, given the very small impact on households, I think it would have the
Worth it.
exact opposite effect of bringing businesses in. And I wouldn't be in favor right now of doing some kind of a split tax rate for that. So I'd be willing to accept the recommendations of the board as listed. Either of you have questions, comments?
I second that.
yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, we've gone that route for the last several years anyways. It makes sense to continue down that path. So I'll make a motion that we have no open space discount, we have no residential exception, and we have no small commercial exemption, and that this split tax rate be at 1.0, no split.
Do I have a second?
Individually, you have to
Do
do
each
You want to do each one? All right, so do the first one.
Right.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, gotta do it
I
again.
make a motion that we have no open space discount.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous.
I make a motion we have no residential exception.
Exemption.
Do I have a second?
Exemption, yeah, exemption.
Do I, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
I'll
good.
make a motion that we have no small commercial exemption.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, also unanimous. Last
And I
one.
make a motion that we have no split tax rate, that our tax rate remain at 1.0.
Do I have a,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, all unanimous.
Good job.
This
All
is,
right.
this has to be signed for the state.
Oh, I was wondering.
Yeah, I did this one only because Jeannie signed it, it has that Jeannie signed
Okay.
it.
Oh, okay, so you don't need this?
Yeah.
Town clerk's-
All right. Here, let me borrow your pen real quick.
Good job, Maureen.
Was this your pen, the blue one?
Oh, it was, thank you. See, I knew I had one up here, I just don't know what to do with it. I moved it over there. Thank you. Awesome. Do you want me to write the date in there? Or do you want?
Yeah, sure.
Roland, do you mind writing the date to the left? She's got a spot.
Oh, good.
Awesome. All right. So moving on to our 7:30 hearing, a little after 7:30. We have a request for a transfer of location for the common victualler's license for Dunkin' Donuts. Is there anyone here from the petitioner? Yeah, really good.
I think they put it forward because
All right.
straightforward.
So we have,
It's not a hearing.
that's what I was looking for. I didn't
Yeah.
think so. So we have a memorandum dated October 5th, 2017, to the police chief, fire chief, building inspector, planning, board of health, tax collector, highway, water sewer, DPW, and town engineer from the Board of Selectmen relative to a transfer of location of the common victualler's license for Dunkin' Donuts from 116-118 Main Street to 61-63 Main Street. The Board of Selectmen act on the transfer of location of the common victualler's license for Dunkin' Donuts from 116-118 Main Street to 61-63 Main Street at its meeting on Monday, October 16, 2017. Kindly provide comments to the board no later than noon on Wednesday, October 11th. Please contact this office if you have any questions or concerns. Lisa, do you want to read the next thing down? Looks like it's from Catalano.
Sure. To the Town of Pepperell Board of Selectmen, this letter hereby asserts that the current Pepperell, Mass. Dunkin' Donuts located at 116-118 Main Street will be relocating to 61-63 Main Street approximately the third week of October 2017. This letter is to ensure that the common
Victualler's, I know.
Victualler's license is
Common
transferred
Vic's
from
fine.
116-118 to 61-63 Main Street. Thank you very much for your time. Regards, Emily Rue, Catalano's company.
It's one of those words that we have in law school that they make you learn to pronounce because there's no other way you're going to learn it. It's crazy. Yeah, it's an awkward word. Let's see.
It doesn't come up on spell check either.
No, really? Yeah, no, understood. Roland, do you want to read the note on the next memo? Which I believe is a comment from
We
the
have a
tax
note,
collector.
that's from us, okay. Oh, taxes are current, okay. Yeah, we just have a
That's
note
it.
from the tax collector that says taxes are current on both properties.
And then do you want to read the comments from the fire chief?
And then we have a note from the fire department. The fire department has no problem with this location. There was a permit pulled for the fire alarm system on July 6, 2017, with the final inspection done on September 7th, 2017.
Okay.
Then there's one from Ken.
I'm looking for that one. Okay.
Below.
2 down.
That's the last one.
Here it is, yep.
Got it?
Yep, and Ken Kalinowski sent us a memo, no comments other than the obvious compliance with the terms and conditions of their site plan approval.
And it looks like that's it in terms of comments. We don't have comments from anybody else. Okay. So are there any questions, comments? All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we grant the movement of the common victualler's license for Dunkin' Donuts from 118 Main Street to 61-63 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did you?
Aye.
Okay. You're quiet over there.
I'm
All right.
just still,
No opposed, it's unanimous. And they are having a ribbon cutting Friday, the 20th at 8:30. So we didn't state that in our public
I
announcement.
didn't hear anything about the inspection by the Board of Health.
You didn't comment. There's no comment in here.
Yeah.
All right, Phil, do you want to jump in? Go for it.
Have they been inspected?
As far as I know, they,
I sent this
yeah.
memo to the Board of Health. I got nothing back from the Board of Health.
Kayleen was working on it.
Well, we hadn't heard anything, that's why we were wondering.
Yeah, there was a little,
They're supposed to be inspected and get a certificate.
They have
Yes.
to be inspected prior to.
I would,
Yep.
may I make a suggestion, Madam
Yeah.
Chair? I would make a revised motion that would reflect Phil's comment relative to that the motion will pass based on meeting all
Contingent on-
requirements of the Board of
Yep.
Health.
But
can do that.
I'm not necessarily sure you have to do that from the perspective that
I
they're
assume
required,
the Neshoba did it.
because they're required to have that inspection made
They can't open
prior
without
to
that.
opening their business.
They can't open without that. All we're doing is we're
Transferring
transferring
it
the
from one
Transferring the
license.
ability
location
to
to the
conduct
other,
business,
yeah.
we're not transferring, we're not giving up any other, or
Autonomy,
overriding any other
right.
rights.
I'm just
Yep.
asking a
No,
question.
it's a
that's
very
all.
good question, and
It is a good
and
question.
would love
I
to.
I don't have
response
I don't
back.
have a problem with the transfer being contingent on them meeting all requirements, including the Board of Health permits. They have to do it anyway.
You gotta do it
Because
anyways.
they may be assuming that the inspection from the other place is good with the new place, and it's not.
No, it's not.
I know that there had been a holdup that they had, I think they were hoping to open earlier, and I believe part of it was the inspection, so I know that it was being worked on, so.
So we've already got a passed motion, so we have to go back and re-vote it. If you want to add that onto it.
I'm okay with that. Does anyone just want to, just make a motion to add the,
I'll move that we
Amendment.
amend the originally approved motion to include receiving an approval from the Board of Health.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. All right, that's unanimous. Sorry, my squiggles squiggle. You guys have actual letters.
Thank you.
So do we hold that until we hear back from the Board of Health?
I will.
Yes, the way I understand it.
Yeah, I'm okay
right,
with that.
yeah, there'll be contingencies that they'll
Yeah.
put forward between now and Friday.
Yep. I mean, regardless of anything we do, they can't open their door without a published notice on the wall that they've met all those inspections. All right, so the next thing on our agenda is a discussion and vote relative to the surplus roof space at North Middlesex Regional High School relative to the solar energy system. I'm going to let Roland start that off because I know that he's been involved in it.
Well, when did we kick this thing off? It hasn't been that long, but we've been,
I think we started April
What's your name?
timeframe. Randy Rush.
Oh, Randy.
That's okay. North Middlesex Regional School Committee.
Joan pulled together or constituted for lack of short definition, a solar panel group. We called it the photovoltaic committee.
Subcommittee, yes.
Because we want to. And so there was a number of us, 3 or 4 people who would come together on a regular basis to look at options as to putting solar arrays on the buildings, both at the high school and basically across the whole district. And I've come up with a couple of opportunities where we can have solar energy put into the school buildings without any real cost, zero cost to us, and lock in a rate for 20 years. But we have to vote to classify the roof as surplus space,
Surplus educational space.
surplus educational space in order for the contract to be executed to go forward to put the arrays on the new school, which was designed to accept, actually.
Right, you
has
did build
has the
that in,
build
right.
built in so they could take it, and we've got a plan already in place as far as the size of the field and a lot of, what we'll end up saving as a district. I think it's about $1 million over the course of 20 years that we'll save in our energy costs. So it's really makes a lot of sense for us to do this, and, since we got a brand-new school, we should at least have solar panels on it. We should have a solar farm there.
I know this came up when they were doing the original building schematics that were approved at one point, because I know that was a big issue about making sure that the roofs were solar ready so that it could be done at some point in the future. So I know that it was an anticipated item coming up, but just because I want to make sure that I understand it, in terms of the cost piece of it and the recategorization, how is this different than the turf piece where we had to come back to revote? So how does this differ? in that regard in terms of being surplus versus that not being part of the original warrant. So I just so that people who aren't here can understand how that's different.
Well, the turf was a project that the district was outlaying cash and money for, and obviously we get the money from the towns. The agreement that we're looking for the solar panels is a power purchase agreement, and there's no outlay at all for the district. We don't own the panels. We're basically leasing our roof to Select, is the company that we're working with. They put the panels on and they sell the electricity to the school, or the school district.
Okay.
So
The
the
terms.
surplus, yeah, go ahead, Joan. I was going to go right there, too.
So, because it's a district school, this is the third town we've presented to. It's considered educational surplus.
Okay.
So really what we're saying is we're not going to use the roof for
conduct classes.
another educational purpose, so it's
Got it.
considered surplus.
That makes more sense now, because I think most people would assume surplus of money, not surplus of use.
It's, yeah,
So,
surplus
thank
of
you.
space
That was
use, yeah.
helpful. That
Yeah.
it clarifies it for me, and I think for anyone else listening, wanting to understand that. Lisa, do you have any questions or comments?
Who's responsible for maintaining, should things start to need to be replaced?
As far as the solar panels and anything related to the solar panels, that is all the responsibility of Select. It is in the contract. They have full responsibility for the maintenance and repair and upkeep of the panels.
Yep, and in the contract, there is actually, you have to replace the inverters, I think, after 10 years. They've got that all structured in the cost of the contract. And even with that, there are, $1 million savings over the course of the 20 years. They own the equipment. We're just leasing the space for them to put their equipment up there, and we're going to benefit from a lower cost in our electrical energy.
Does the agreement with them contain any kind of language that if their equipment causes damage to the roof, that they're responsible to fix it?
Yes. There will be an inspection done before they put their equipment up, and then an inspection after to recertify our roof warranty. So that all warranties will be in place as it is before they put anything in there.
Great.
We actually had an attorney read the whole purchase
Double contract.
agreement, and also we even looked at the warranty for the electricity,
Great.
the electrical work on the roof.
Great.
And I spoke to the project manager, and there's no liability that our warranty would be.
That's great. That's very important.
Yes,
Start
very.
sticking stuff up there, so, especially on a new building. Awesome. That's fabulous. Do you have any other questions? Does anyone from the audience? All right, just introduce yourself for the public.
Pam Lundstrom, 128 Townsend Street. I'm curious if the fire department has reviewed this, because I was told that fires are fought in a different manner if there's solar panels. They're vented differently, and I was just wondering if the fire chief had reviewed it.
Do you know? Okay.
Yes. Chief Tyler has been, I believe, well-informed, has attended educational seminars relative to the Borrego Energy array that's been installed and up and working over the past year's time. The Pepperell Fire Force I'm sure Townsend has done the same thing, to make certain.
Right. As right now, we have not presented the plans to them. That is a responsibility of Select. They are responsible for all permitting, including going and getting, building inspections and fire inspections done on the project.
So this is just step one before they can get to that
When
point.
we have not signed the contract yet.
Okay.
And the Pepperell Fire Department has been up on the roof, as has the police. They visit the building often, but one evening all the firefighters came and went up to the roof, and so they're familiar with the structure, but they will be reaching out to them. It's an excellent question.
Phil, what you got?
If they're putting the panels on our roof
Correct.
Yes.
and they're selling the electricity to you,
Yes.
Correct.
where does that benefit us?
We have a significantly lower cost. Right now, they're looking at our bills, we pay about little over 15 cents for the electricity. We have a rate of 9.8 cents that we're gonna be purchasing it for the next 20 years, a constant, and we have no maintenance requirements for any of the equipment that's up there, and that's
You
the
have a
benefit to
guaranteed
us.
figure?
Guaranteed
For
for
20
20 years at
20 years,
9.8 cents.
as well as no upfront costs,
Well, that's,
because we're not paying for the equipment.
I'm just trying to figure out.
It's a good question.
Very good question.
Yeah.
I know, price-wise.
That's right. They get to use it and put it back in the system, so what do we get? So that makes sense. Go ahead.
Dave Lavender, 19 Deerfield Drive. I'm just wondering where it's going over 20 years. You said we're getting a discount. What if a miracle happens and the rates drop below what you're paying? Are you still paying that?
No loss.
Yes, we are. It is a fixed rate, so it's a small gamble that we're paying, that we're taking with this, that the prices are gonna continue to go up, as they have for, in recent, or in full memory. I can't remember a year that electricity costs actually went down. So unfortunately, if that miracle does happen, it's a small possibility that we may lose some money.
Also a good question.
There also is a buyout after 7 years, I believe, because that's where they no longer have any of the tax credits that they can take. We have a plan for each year on how much to buy out the entire project, if we want to start to own it at any point after 7 years.
Right, so that's one way to mitigate that is after 7 years, if all of a sudden electrical rates went down to 2 cents, we can buy it out, and now we're gonna basically own the system, so any electricity that
Oh,
we
it's not
generate.
going down, that's for sure.
No,
Yeah.
but it's our way, if it did, if a miracle happened, yes.
One can hope. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience?
What, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
This particular company we chose also did the those schools, and we had an opportunity to go up on top of the new school there and see how that array system was put in and everything. I mean, so we have a high degree of confidence that these folks know what they're doing, and they've done a number of schools and town buildings throughout the state, so this is definitely in their area.
How does it work with, before Phil, 1 second, then I will have you ask your question. How does it work with the other schools that are not necessarily, I know that we're putting new roofs relative to the projects that were approved in the spring. When those roofs go in, are they going to be solar ready?
That's not in the design right now, but it's certainly something we should be looking at.
Only because at the beginning, it talked about the high school as well as the others, so I wasn't sure if that was something that had been factored in or
I'm
not
actually
yet.
meeting with the architect tomorrow.
All right.
It's coming to my office, so something we can definitely discuss. We did look at also Hawthorne Brook's roof. It's a fairly new roof, but it's over the point where you want to put
Yep.
solar arrays. It's newer than Barnum's, that's what we're replacing
Right.
Barnum's. But it's an excellent question.
Right. Hawthorne Brook has about
Before you ask
14
yourself.
years
Yeah.
on its roof. We are looking at also putting arrays on Ashby Elementary, which has a fairly new roof within the last 5 years. Spalding, we looked at, but that has such a small, flat area that they can put panels on. Their electrical work, the amount of work that they had to do to put the electrical work in and get it to the street just voided the benefit
Right.
of that project.
Understood. Phil, go
Now,
ahead.
that was my next question.
Okay.
Whether they were gonna do more than just the high school.
Right.
Go ahead.
Joan, did Townsend and Ashby approve this?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, do I have a motion? Yep.
Yes. Is it next, or is it on the same?
It's
right at the
action item
beginning.
number
Three.
At the beginning, yep.
Oh, there it is. Motion made. I move that we approve the use of the surplus roof space at the North Middlesex Regional High School for the purpose of installing and operating for a period of at least 20 years a new rooftop solar energy system for the benefit of the North Middlesex Regional School District.
Before I get a second, you said it has to be surplus
Surplus.
educational roof space?
Yeah, it's educational surplus.
I just
It has
want
to
you
be
to add that in
educational in
there. So with that amendment, do I
So-
have a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? Nope. All right, it's unanimous.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Randy, good job driving this bus.
And I mean, one.
Go ahead.
I'd like to invite the public and the board to the dedication ribbon cutting ceremony at the new high school.
Forgot that. Two public announcements.
Why wasn't, yeah.
On Friday at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
All the residents are invited,
That's great.
and the board, and
When's the other one?
8:30.
8:30, okay.
I reached out to anyone that was on a board in the 3 towns.
Excellent.
Served during the building project over the last 5-6 years, and made sure that they were invited to come.
So just to clarify, this Friday, October 20th, there are 2 ribbon cuttings. Dunkin' Donuts at 8:30 and the high school at 10.
Bring the
Get your
donuts.
coffee and go.
That's right. Exactly. Right on the way.
And we had a good turnout on Saturday. A lot of residents from the 3 towns came to walk through the school, and actually
That's
people from
great.
other towns came, just curious to see.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful high school.
Like,
Very
so-
nice.
Sure.
Dave was there too, right?
So just also, just real quick, I just
Yep.
wanted to say, just on the green, on the solar program, it fits so nicely into the overall plan for green communities. I believe all 3 communities are green communities, and we work very hard with Joan and her staff and Chairman Rush to basically make sure that, you know, the boilers, or the other systems in the buildings are working, and that also is complemented by the accelerated repair program that Joan Land has fought very hard for. So I just wanted to say that for the record.
Thank you. And we're in the process, so they're coming out tomorrow. They're working on all 3 projects. So I'll come back at a future date, give you an update.
We'll be here.
Thank you very much, Joan.
Thanks for having us.
Have a great night.
Good night.
All right. Come on up.
Dave.
You're next.
Oh,
Price
sorry.
is right. Come on.
Statewide mutual aid agreement.
That's right.
Yes. So would it be best, because I think you have the memo from me, would you want me to recap? How do
Go
you-
for it.
Yeah.
Recap away.
All right.
You don't want us to read those 9 pages?
No, no, no.
On the law?
So, and I'm just going to skim through it. So it started out with a meeting I had with MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management, in July, where I took over as director about 3 years ago. I am working a full-time job, really hadn't had a chance to go see the Regional 1 office and meet the staff there, and we went down there in July and met them, which was really good. We weren't there much more than 10 minutes before someone on staff pounced on me and said, statewide mutual aid agreement. And I said, okay. So as it turns out, back a number of years ago, under Chapter 40, Sections 4J and 4K, they established a statewide mutual aid agreement. 4J is for public safety, 4K is for public works. And the way it works, right now, there are 351 municipalities within the state. There are about 30 that have not opted in. Of the surrounding communities, Pepperell and Groton are the only 2 in our immediate area that have not opted in. The rest of them have opted in. The way it states, there is no stated obligation to respond to a request for mutual aid if we're in the mutual aid agreement. We're supposed to do whatever reasonable or practical and never put our own town at risk.
Right.
So we're not expected to put our own town at risk. The requesting party makes the assignments for any staff or equipment we send over, but we control and manage them. So if it's our people, if it's our equipment, we manage that. We just get told what area we're going to and what assignment we're going to have. We manage all of that. All responders have the same rights and privileges of anybody. So if a fireman goes over, a police officer goes over, a public works employee goes over, they have the same rights and privileges as they have when they're working for the town of Pepperell. The expenses are incurred by us, but we can submit to the requesting town, who in turn submits it to both MEMA and FEMA, and then they'll get reimbursed, and then they reimburse us. So we can submit for reimbursement. And as I understood the way it was explained to me, hopefully you were there, Lisa, so you know, I was told that it isn't one of these deals where normally, like, the governors declare a state of emergency before you can submit for reimbursement, like we did for the ice storms several years back. This is if there's a disaster in Danvers, for instance, and for whatever reason we decide to go to Danvers and help out, Danvers can submit under this statewide mutual aid agreement, and we can get covered for any expenses for helping them out. We can opt out at any time, so we're not locked in. We have to give them written notice, but we can opt out at any time. And then if we request mutual aid, we can do it orally, but we have to follow up with something in writing within 72 hours. So overall, we got together. I got together with Chief Tyler, Chief Scott, Director Steers, Director Kalinowski, myself. I reviewed it with Mark. Everybody was in agreement. apparently this has come up for conversations before, but I guess we just never really totally acted on it. So we decided at this point to bring it to you. The state does require that you vote on it as a Board of Selectmen, and after that is voted on, then Mark can execute the contract on our behalf.
Is there any there's a lot of upsides, so is there any downside?
I was looking for, I went through the document several times looking for, like, are we roped into supplying, like, if Broughton cries for assistance or somebody else cries for steam? And I couldn't find anything that obligates us to do anything. I mean, basically, if we have the resources and we're willing, we send people. If we don't have to. Nothing really holding us to it.
I can say that David Scott did try to implement this, so I think that it's probably as fair as it looks.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tried for years to get this adopted, so I'm sure it's fine.
And I know, like I said, out of the 351 municipalities, there's only 30 left that haven't signed up, and they're pushing like crazy. And it seems like some of them, like down towards the Cape, which I would think they would want to sign up. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Well, that's why I asked if there's any downside that you can't see, because to me it seems like it's all up, not down. So.
And we can separate the public works from public safety. You can vote for one or the other or both. So I guess you need to actually vote for both of them. So if you want to do both of them, but they can separate the two. And Ken did bring it to his board, and they reviewed it and approved it, and they agreed with it as well.
All right.
So I think this makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think in the early days when Chapter 40 was passed, I'm going back maybe 10 years now.
Yeah, probably.
It wasn't quite as clear, but particularly like who uses our equipment. If we bring it to Groton, something happens to it, who repairs it. So I think we will look at a very detailed MOU agreement, which David has spearheaded, and I think it's a good thing for the town.
I think if everybody in emergency management, as well as DPW, has looked at it across the board, and it's pretty much unanimous that everybody's on board, we don't always get that, so that in and of itself says volumes, so.
And looking at Houston, looking at Florida, looking at Puerto Rico, people think we're...
Okay, there's wood here, I'm just saying, I'm gonna knock on it.
People think we're immune to hurricanes here, and hurricanes, they have in the past. People have been, if they're old enough, they remember the hurricanes in the past. And we think about what happened with, I think it was Irene, that went straight up the Connecticut River and wiped out half of Vermont with floods.
But we can also get really bad snow and ice storms that can have just as much of a devastating effect, especially from maybe not as much a standpoint of emergency management per se, but significant impacts on electricity, access to utilities, and things like that. I know a few years ago, well, it's probably more than a few years ago now, I think my son was real small, we had that storm over October, and we had power out for 9 days, and they still had people coming in from all over to help out.
And a large part of this community is on wells, so you lose power here, people have no water.
That's right.
I'm one of those
We were in that group, yeah. So it's,
9 days without water.
it's not fun. 1 day is bad enough. All right, are there any comments from the audience, questions anyone have relative to this particular item? Phil, you look like you have a question.
Isn't our own emergency management team active?
Yes.
Here in town?
Yes.
The one George had?
Yeah.
So I replaced George. George has stepped down to deputy.
I know you did.
Right, okay.
Don't you still have that list of town people that are available?
Yeah,
There's a list for the shelter. We also have the auxiliary police too, which are part of emergency management.
Yeah, but if we have a problem within the town, we get the
Yeah.
list that you call and.
Well, you want to
It would be an
join?
extreme scenario.
You wanna volunteer, Phil?
Do
Do you want to volunteer? You want me to add you to the list?
I'm still in there.
Okay,
He's on the list.
okay.
Yeah, he's on the list.
Good. Thank you.
But that would obviously
They
still
all
apply.
might.
These are extreme
Yeah.
circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Right. So this wouldn't,
I'm just asking if that list is still active.
it is, and this wouldn't
No, she's-
replace it, so.
When George handed off to me, Joan quickly handed her list off to me as well, so we gave that, and Lisa now has that.
Ah, okay.
Excellent. All right, do I have a motion?
I move that we, since we don't have a written motion here.
Hold on, though, you have to do it in two parts.
Yeah.
I was just looking for that.
Yes.
We have to do one for,
So maybe do based on this part where you hear where it talks about the
4J?
statute. Yeah, 4J and then 4K.
and then we do 4K separately?
Yes.
Okay, so I move that we enter into a state mutual aid agreement under Mass General Law, Part 1, Title 11. No, 7, yeah, it's a 5. 7, Chapter 40, Section 4J.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, that's unanimous.
And I'll make a second motion that we enter into a statewide mutual aid agreement under Mass General Law, Part 1, Title 7, Chapter 40, Section 4K.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is also unanimous. All right. It is in place, or at least the potential to be in place.
Thanks a lot for your hard work, Dave.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank God you're retired.
You do know
Like
retirement
yes.
means slow down.
It doesn't mean slow down. It means you
Do
change
more what you
gears.
enjoy doing.
There you go.
Exactly.
There
You
you
do
go.
things you're more passionate
I
about.
like it. That's
job.
awesome. Thank you. All right, you're all set.
Do you have the form? Do you want me to get the two? Or do you have it already?
Yeah, get the forms. I have the contract up. And,
Okay, I think it's in the back of that.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Dave. It was a
Bye.
pleasure.
All right, so the last
Gave you
thing
that today.
on our agenda is request for temporary trailer license for Christine Dutton and Al Corbett at 17.5 West Street. Come on up. All right.
Okay.
All right, Lisa, do you want to read the letter?
Sure.
To the record.
Okay, the letter is from Christine Dutton and Al Corbett, September 18, 2017. Dear Selectmen, we would like to formally request a license for a temporary dwelling for a duration not to exceed 6 months at 17.5 West Street, where we plan to build ourselves a 37-square-foot home. The temporary dwelling is a 2018 Cherokee travel trailer with 3 pullouts and LED lighting that we recently purchased. We plan to have the black tank in the trailer pumped out weekly by a septic removal service. This is temporary until the Title V septic system is installed and we can connect the camper to the system. We will use a generator or a friendly neighbor's house until the temp service is hooked up, since the trailer runs on 30 amps. We will bring it in a portable 250-gallon water tank to replenish the 100-gallon trailer tank, or use a friendly neighbor water supply until the town water is connected to the new construction. Due to unforeseen delays with the new construction, our lease expired on the home we had been renting for the last 5 years because the owner has put the house on the market. We are currently residing at a campground. We have been living comfortably for the past 2 months in the camper at a few different campgrounds in Massachusetts. With construction starting within the next 30 days, this would allow us to work on the property with our adult children. Tentative schedule for construction is excavation starts in 2 weeks. The house is ordered in 2 to 3 weeks and is delivered 6 to 8 weeks later, during which time the septic, foundation, utilities, and driveway will be installed, awaiting delivery of the modules. Best regards, Christine Dutton and Al Corbett.
And this was dated September 19th,
Yeah, there's been some
2017.
corrections to that.
Yeah, there's been some
Like, because we
updates,
went
right?
to the
Yeah.
Board of Health and we couldn't borrow water from a neighbor or power from a neighbor, or, so we corrected it with the Board of Health to get their approval.
So I'm going to have you introduce yourselves.
My name is Al Corbett.
Christine Dutton.
Excellent. All right, so why don't you tell us what's changed based on the letter from September 18th?
That was basically, we're gonna put in the tank, the 1,500-gallon tank, and basically dump our black tanks into the 1,500-gallon tank.
Can you pump out of there?
And then we will never fill it. It's only got a 30-gallon black tank. You know what I mean? So 1,500 gallons, we're not gonna, the Title V system will be in, let's say in a month or so, because I'm installing it. So basically that'll be in a month or so, then the system will be working that way. Same thing with bringing in water. The water, 250-gallon tank is gonna be for the dishes and for showers, but it's not gonna be for drinking. So I mean, we're gonna have a bubbler inside, you know, the portable 5-gallon water jugs for the stuff we're drinking and the stuff we're cooking with. And then the generator, again, we're just gonna put a generator, and we're in a wooded area, and there's no houses where I'm planning on directing the generator. And that's gonna run our power. And my plan was to go up there this weekend and actually clear the lot, make a driveway, make a place for it, start. I'm bringing an excavator up with all the approvals, with your approval of this. And some of the delays was the lot was too small. We've been working on this for about 1.5 years now.
In terms
And,
of the construction piece of it,
Yep.
do you have whatever you need to have in place with planning and other Board of Health to the degree that they're involved yet, all that stuff?
I've had everybody in the town sign off.
Okay.
The highway, the Board of Health Commission, everybody signed off on this. I'm just waiting to pull the permit until, we've been waiting for the bank financing. We're there today, so that should be about 20 days away before we have that money. But I have the machines to be able to make the driveway, to put in the septic. I have access, I do construction. I'm doing a CVS right now.
I kind of figured that you must be in the construction
Right.
business when you said you had the machines, yeah.
Right, I had the machines, and so basically that's what I was gonna do, is just grab a machine this weekend, one of the excavators, bring it up there, you know, make a driveway, make a path, make it safe for in and out. And basically, most of it's being done by us, me, everybody, the whole family, me, my son. Me and my son have basically done the CVS in Plymouth. We moved 40,000 yards of fill, demoed 3 buildings, and we're on pace to have asphalt down in 2 weeks on that. And now, once that CVS is done, now I'm free to just spend full time on making this lot ready for the house that takes 6 to 8 weeks to be delivered. Excuse me.
Does anyone have any questions up here?
I do. Is the Board of Health gonna, like, regularly check to make sure that everything's in compliance on a regular basis in the 6 months?
Are you asking them or Phil?
I'm asking Phil, sorry.
Say that again.
I'm just wondering if the Board of Health plans on going and just making sure that they're complying with everything that they're supposed to be as far as the sewerage and water
Yeah,
and...
what he's gonna do is put the sewage tank right in the ground, he's gonna put the trailer right over the top of it.
Right.
So his storage is gonna go in the tank and everything's gonna be ready before he'll ever fill that tank.
Right.
Okay. And what happens
It's
if
a
it goes
two-tank
over the
system.
6-month period? That's my question to, I guess, you.
Yeah.
That we're gonna check on.
Right.
Well, no, that's more of our question.
Right,
said
so,
that to Melissa.
yep,
Yeah.
so it's October, it's mid-October now. So that would put you out to April. Yeah, April, that would put you out to mid-April. You said you're gonna start, so you're doing a modular home.
Yes.
When do you anticipate the home itself being delivered, roughly?
At 10 weeks? It's 6 to 8 weeks, and once we get the bank money,
Then-
which is 20 days from now, then I can order it, and then it's 6 to 8 weeks. So if it takes the 8 weeks, that puts me in mid-January, but I'll have a foundation, I'll have my utilities already tied in, I'm gonna have a driveway by then.
Okay.
I'm building everything around it as if there's a house there, and they're just gonna set the house, and then it's just button up the house.
Will you, for anything that you're doing, can you anticipate that the weather, frozen ground, or any of that kind of stuff is going to impact that 6-month timetable? Okay.
Because we have frost blankets in my construction.
Okay.
We use frost blankets if we're waiting for foundations, there's special mixes.
Yep,
The only delay is I'm trying to get the driveway in the next 3 weeks because the plant's closed, like mid-November.
right. That's a big trick.
Right, so, and to satisfy the bank, but yeah, I don't see it going, I really can't go over 6 months, and the machine I'm bringing is 30-ton excavator, so really frost doesn't bother it. And I actually did we actually did the Title V perk test in mid-January last year, in the snow.
Just depends on the, yeah, I know, sometimes you
We
can,
dragged Rose's little buggy around in the snow because it wouldn't actually travel on the lot.
Yeah.
So we had to drag it with the backhoe.
that's funny.
So,
And I know most builders estimate 6 months for construction, regardless of the time of year. So I think if you get all the weather stuff in, they probably won't have much trouble with the 6 months, because that is about average. It doesn't usually take that long, but assuming weather delays, that's about the average.
CVS isn't even taking 6 months.
Yeah, and do you have in your plan that if for some reason you can't get your driveway completely in, and paved, to put stone down and then pave it in the spring?
Yeah. I have that, and I also, there's the highway department wanted me to pave so much in, just in case I never paved.
Right.
You know what I mean, just to save the edge of the road.
Yep.
So, I've gone to them, I've talked to them, I talked to every department. Here, I've even had to meet with Mark for a meeting, because my lot was too small. So, but I was able to buy land from a butter and make it right, and So now everything is,
So it's not
all the issues were passed.
Okay. And have all the plans and everything been recorded relative to, and the deeds for the land purchase of the abutter?
Yep.
Is that all taken care of?
Yep, that's all been done. It's all submitted with Boston.
Okay.
Everything was done.
I
with the
only
planning
ask
board. Yep.
because I've had people come to me after the fact thinking they've done a land swap to find that things were never
Oh,
recorded.
no, I did it.
so-
No, I did it.
Okay,
And it was like last year we did it, so I mean, it's,
Awesome, good to know. Do you have any other questions? No. Do you have any questions?
No, there are communications here that, from the DPW.
Yep, do you want to read them in?
Well, let me get to the top. Okay, so the first one is from the treasurer collector, and it says the first quarter taxes are still outstanding. Second quarter taxes will be due on 11/1, which is quickly coming up. The amount of $453.66. I mean, I think that's something that you definitely need to
well, no, we'll take care.
deal with.
We've been,
that.
everything we've done thus far, even buying the adjacent lot, has all been done out of pocket, because the bank hasn't stepped in yet.
Yeah.
We can make sure that
Oh,
it's condition
so.
approval, that be taken place beforehand.
Okay, and then, who's this from? Ken. Ken Kalinowski sent us a memo. Overall, I do not have a problem with issuing a permit for a temporary dwelling on the property. My only concerns are as follow. One, with the BOS meeting on 10/16, and then a 3-month lead time on the delivery of the permanent structure, this temporary dwelling may well be in service through January 2018. While it is the applicant's intent to have the trailer hooked up to permanent water and sewer service during the 3 months manufacturing timeline, they have also noted unintended delays in the construction process to date, understanding that the tankage in the trailer is likely insulated and heated. There's a question mark. What precautions are in place to protect the external temporary water and sewer service from freezing should they encounter another delay? And ground frost, which we've already talked about, can set in by mid to late December, and above ground temps can drop below freezing well before that. 2, is there a contingency/action plan on the town's part should there be other unavoidable delays or other circumstances that push the construction past the 6-month temporary permit? I appreciate the opportunity to comment. Please contact me if you have any questions. Let's see who else we have here. We have from town council. Although Pepperell does not have any bylaw dealing directly with the issue of temporary dwellings, I believe that the building commissioners has authority to allow the temporary placement under the definition of temporary structure. which
But then
reads-
we found, I'm sorry, but then we
Okay.
found it's in the zoning bylaw.
Then we found the zoning bylaw, and I was
Right.
gonna say, we have
That
the zoning
the selectmen
bylaw.
issued the
Right.
license.
Right, so,
Sorry,
we didn't really need that, okay.
no.
So, outside of that, and we know that, yeah, under the bylaw, 7,400 trailers, 7,410, that we can issue a license, or do we call it a license, or do we call it?
It's called a
temp-
license.
Yeah, it's a
Called a
temporary
license.
trailer license.
For use of a trailer for no more than 6 months.
So if it does exceed 6 months, do they have to come back and get another
Yes.
license?
Yeah.
We'd have to come back to get a new license.
Yeah, I think that's the cleanest way to structure it.
Right, but given it's a modular home,
Right.
not stick-built, so I think,
It's 90% once they drop
yeah,
it.
once you drop it,
Yeah.
you're just doing, button the outside up, and then,
You're hooking up your plumbing and
You're-
such,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
so it should
And
have
a lot
no problem.
of the site work is gonna be done before it's ever dropped.
Yeah,
So,
makes sense.
once we're literally plugging it in at that point.
Okay.
That actually makes it easier to meet the deadline
Right.
versus if you were just putting it up, so.
I'm busy, that's why I did what modular, 'cause I
Yep.
don't have time.
Yep,
They're nice too.
No, I wake up at 4,
Yeah.
I leave here at 5, the CVS I'm building is in Plymouth, it's 2 hours away, and then I come back, you know,
You don't want to be
so-
constructing it for the next year and a half.
No, and that's why I want to
Get
kind of be
that.
on the property, so I can just jump in a machine for the hour or two a day I may still have.
Fair enough. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience? All right. If there's no other questions up here, do we have a motion?
I move we grant the license for a 6-month temporary dwelling trailer on 17 and a half West Street.
Second?
I am just going to amend your motion to say that it's contingent upon the 11/1 taxes being paid current, and that the first quarter taxes are still outstanding. So that just has to be brought current. So your taxes are up to date.
So the Board of Health put a date in their letter? I don't know if you wanna-
3/18, which is not 6 months.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from.
Yeah, I know.
No, but it may
Well, that's
have been
because
from
they-
the time they originally submitted,
Oh,
and there was
okay.
the delay in getting on our agenda.
Okay.
I'm not
So-
sure that should be
Yeah, you're
their
right.
fault.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? They asked to get on and we moved them because we had
Just
too
checking.
much on for the night, so,
Well, and that's for what
Right.
they've granted.
Yeah.
right. But that's.
So, I mean,
obvious-
that's a totally separate thing. They have to,
So if they're not done by early March or February even, they'll have to go back and get an
Right.
extension
But
from
you'll,
the
by
Board of
then,
Health.
you'll have your septic system in.
Right, so it shouldn't be much of an issue for you at that point.
Yeah, no, that'll all be tied in by then.
All right, so do I have a second with the amendment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, as long as you get your taxes up to speed, you're good to go.
Welcome to Pepperell.
There you go.
Oh, we've been here. We're in Ashby at the moment, but.
In Ashby at the
We
moment.
were driving through Pepperell to get where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so that's it.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We're done, Ed.